Hi guys, welcome back to Casting Commons, the show where we talk and discuss all things Pauper. I am your host Teasdale, and this is my co-host, the poison dart frog himself, Reese.
Hello.
Hey Pods, like that one.
It was no yo.
Yo yo yo! Welcome back. How did that go? Is that better?
Yeah, I'm pleased now.
That's alright then. So
That's what I
Paul,
need to start the episode.
sorry, we'll do a retake. Go back. Yo yo yo! Welcome back. So Paul, what have you been up to this week?
Sadly, no Pauper. But I have played quite a bit of Magic. Locally, our FNMs have sort of changed the way they run to where essentially each month is one format. So last month was Pauper. So this month is no Pauper. It's modern.
Bit Sag.
I would prefer it to be Pauper, but yeah, it is what it is. Everyone's got to have their turn. So I ended up playing the modern FNM, playing Plate and Affinity, which was always sort of a favourite deck of mine since like Extended. Basically, I started Magic just as it rotated out of Standard, or just as it got banned out of Standard.
When you said Plate and Affinity, do you mean like Cranial Plate and Affinity?
Yeah.
Is that legal in modern?
Well, I mean, the cards are legal in modern.
All right.
I don't think it's very good, but
All right. I didn't actually know that. To be fair, I actually assumed cranial plate was banned. To be honest. Don't know
no,
why.
it maybe was banned at some point. I'm not
That's
sure.
alright.
The artifact lands are still banned,
Is
which
that what it is?
makes no sense when people are double thought seasoning and playing a 4/3 for 1 mana on turn 1. But hey ho, artifact lands are broken apparently. So yeah, it's a deck I've always enjoyed. So I ended up playing that, and went undefeated with that, which was pretty cool. And got one of the promo like Japanese Aeroblast looking things.
Weep.
Which was fine. I mean, I can play it in Pauper. So
Yeah.
and then at the weekend was Ixalan pre-release, which was sealed, which was pretty fun as well. It's a cool set. I like the setting. I feel like they've hit it a bit better this time. Like the first Ixalan was a bit shit, to be honest. Like not beating around the bush, it just wasn't entertaining.
Yeah.
But they seem to have hit it really well, especially with like the Jurassic Park tie-in and stuff like that. But yeah, I opened a pretty good red green dinos pool, and went undefeated there as well. So
A good weekend for you.
Yeah, good weekend results wise. Sadly, none of it Pauper, but next month FNM's a Pauper again, so we'll see.
Woohoo! Sound?
What about yourself?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, like not too much, but there's a bit of lull at the minute because I think Ixalan's gonna change things up quite a bit in my head. I think it will shake the format up Pauper wise. So I've done more theory crafting than anything than actually playing leagues because I kind of don't. They're not really that enjoyable with the decks that I'm trying. So I'm rather just wait for the new set and prepare myself that way. So I kind of did a lot of theory crafting of random lists. You know, like Mardoom, Black White, Gardens. Obviously has to be in there somewhere. Yeah, that's pretty much it because I think that's tomorrow as recording this. I think that's Wednesday.
Is that when it's legal?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, sick.
So and then after that, I've obviously just been writing. Is at the moment with obviously the baby on the way, my only thing that I can kind of seem to fit around my life at the moment is writing. So it's the only type of content I get at the moment. But yeah,
and casting comments, obviously.
Obviously, this is the one rock that holds us all into place. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So I'll probably be recording with Mardu Synth this week, assuming the obviously the baby doesn't come. Yeah, pretty much. So that's the hope.
Yeah, sweet.
Yeah, it'd be good.
I guess one additional tack on to the Ixalan pre-release was I managed to pick up basically a playset of all the stuff we were interested in for Pauper. Which is always sweet. Loads of people open boxes, and if people aren't bothered about Pauper, they're usually pretty lenient with the comments, which is always nice.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, I ended up getting basically a playset. I maybe just over on a few cards, but
that's right.
We should be good in that regard.
That's always a good thing to do. Yeah, so want to move on to a bit of news?
Yeah, go for it.
So yeah, just to touch on, I think we touched on it last week, obviously, on the 10th of December, Recollect in Chester are hosting a £250 prize pool pauper event. Obviously, they've been up to our local game store, obviously, helped us with other events, being a vendor for a few that we've done. So, I believe the event link says there's 32 places, tickets are available on the website, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, yeah. They have sold quite a few tickets now, so there won't be 32 places now. But believe tickets are still available currently. But yeah, I would get them if you want to go. It should be a pretty good event, to be fair.
Yeah.
It's a really cool looking store. Really nice guys running it. I'll be going with another guy from our club. Obviously, Teesdale won't be going.
Nope.
For obvious reasons. But yeah, it should be a good event.
Yeah, it'll be good. It'll be cool to see. Cool to see what's available. See, obviously, I'm trying to think. Oh yeah, Ixalan will be the last set out. So yeah, hopefully see if Ixalan's obviously shake things up, and you'll get a good varied meta game. Assuming it's very similar to Leeds, I would guess. So yeah, it'll be good. Cool to see. Obviously, if you do see Reese, don't forget to ask for a photo and send them to the Casting Commons Twitter. I will be doom scrolling all of those photos. So please just grab him. Like, hey, look, it's that guy from Casting Commons. But moving on. More importantly, bigger than Chester, Pauper is this weekend. Woohoo! 17th, I believe, is it the Player of the Year event or whatever they do on the Friday. It's like that Friday only standalone event that they use like their league qualifications and all that sort of stuff. I think that's on the Friday, and then after that, the Saturday Sunday is actually the 2-day Pauper event. So
yeah, I look forward to watching some of that, to be fair.
yeah, it will be streamed on Twitch, and I think the link and all the update stuff is on Twitter or X. You can follow them on TH Bleats. He's generally the guy, or Alessandro. I'm not going to try and pronounce his surname because I can't. But yeah, you can check those out on Twitch. I think it's like the Liga, Pauper Liga Italia is the Twitch account. Yeah, it'd be cool to follow. And they do actually do some sections in English, depending on who they have commentating on there. So check it out. Highly recommend it. And I think that's all we have for the news. Should we go into the weekend's challenges? Because I am looking forward to going over these.
Yeah. Saturday the 11th. We have first place Grixis Affinity. Second place was Gardens. Third and fourth place was Kuldotha and Monoblue Terror. And then fifth through eighth was a Jeskai Wildfire, a Blue-Black Fair, a Blue-White Glitters, and a Corgate. And then the near misses was a Blue-Black Terror and a Blue-Black Fair. As you may have picked up from me reading that out, the full top 8 are all different decks, which we haven't seen in a long time. And there is even 2 non-blue decks with the Gardens and the Kuldotha breaking up the Pylo Blue that we have been seeing. So yeah, it's a really sweet looking top 8. And yeah, really good to see at the moment. It gives you a bit of faith that the format's sort of rebuilding itself and can cope with the cards that are in it currently.
Yeah, definitely. It is, as I say, it is such a good top 8, and you've got a lot of decks that you haven't seen in quite a while, and like you've obviously got the not just red, it's Kuldotha red as well. You've got the classic Gardens sort of Avenging Hunter list, and you've got the Jeskai Wildfire again, another deck that hasn't really appeared in top 8s for quite a while.
Yeah.
So it's good to see. It gives you some faith, as you say.
Yeah, and all the lists weren't really trying anything new either. They're all sort of what you would expect to see when you say those deck names. Like the Kuldotha was basically a stock Kuldotha. It had changed, I think, 1 Chain Lightning for 1 Sealer Fire. Like the Grixis Affinity was just sort of the Gear Seeker Affinity. Obviously running cast downs instead of Gald Blast, but that's fairly normal nowadays. I guess the only weird thing I seen was the blue white glitters was playing one Fire X in Walker,
Yeah,
but I
seen
have
that.
seen that in a few places recently.
Yeah.
I'm not massively sold on that myself, but it's
He,
definitely a card you can play,
hey, it's an ornithopter that can attack. Leave it alone. It can attack
but
all
doesn't
time.
have evasion.
No, that's not important. What you try to do, ninja stuff in a player.
But yeah, obviously 8 different decks. Even in the top 10, there was only the one duplicate blue black fair. The blue black terror was a ninth. Different deck. Great to see. They're all sort of fairly well tuned decks, as we say, but it's good to see them being as mixed up as this is, and there's no one deck just dominating the top 8 as we've seen most weeks for the past 2 or 3, 4 months now.
Yeah, definitely. It's nice to cover when obviously there's not 4 mono blue terrors or 4 core gates dominating the top 8, and it's just really good to see that obviously we have again in this diversity back. Really, it's kind of, as you say, it's kind of healing itself, and this is before Ixalan as well, which I think will impact I think some of these decks will actually probably see new cards in them, most likely. So be exciting times.
I think the only sort of other comment I've got on this, it was sort of as the top 32 of a whole. Although it is super varied, like there's a lot of different decks throughout the top 32. There's no what you would class as outlier decks or brews. They're all fairly straight up, like tier 1, tier 2 decks. There's no like mass terror, but it is just like there's blue white glitters, there's Kuldoffer, there's terror, there's blue black terror, there's Colgate. There's no real combo decks. I think those one walls.
Yeah.
And there's nothing really that I've seen that I would call a brew. I think the closest was like a blue black. It's sort of blue black terror, but it's more slanted towards control in I think 30th place. It's only playing 3 terrors and 1 Gurmag, and then sort of more blue black control-y. That was the closest thing to sort of an outlier deck. Everything else, although there was that variety, was sort of a straight up, this is a good Pauper deck at the moment type thing.
Yeah, yeah. Which is still fair. You can't really. It's not the end of the world, but it is obviously.
No, not at all.
But at least we are seeing a variety of established decks making it the top 32.
Yeah, I think even more looking at that top 8, that is probably the 8 decks you would say are sort of the format at the moment. With Grixis Affinity and Blue White Glitters being sort of the artifact slot. There's Kuldoffer, although that sort of is covered burn because there's Pinger Burn as well, which is still doing fairly decent at the moment. Gardens, obviously you've got 2 varieties now, but Gardens is represented there. Mono blue terror sort of doing there's mono blue, there's blue black, and as we'll see, there's blue red still doing pretty well. Colgate, blue black fair, and Jeskai Wildfire sort of filling the control role. Outside of that, really the sort of walls combo is probably the most consistent combo deck we tend to see. Obviously fams and stuff like that sneak in, but I would say walls is probably the more consistent one out of that. But
yeah, I generally tend to agree, but I do think a lot of the combo slots, I think a lot of those are more pilot driven than person driven. I think if
pilot driven than deck driven, you mean?
than deck driven, yeah. So like you get the combo deck that does well is generally because the pilot knows the deck more than the deck's well positioned, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Is how I would generally lean towards the combo side of things in Pauper at the moment, especially in challenges.
But yeah, I think even to be fair, even if we just end up with an 8 deck metagame that is these 8 decks, that's far and away better than what we've had recently. With basically
definitely.
When we were at a point where it was mono red or mono blue terror.
Yeah, definitely. Leagues of it's just.
And even like the last few weeks when it's essentially been just Colgate or something that's not Colgate.
Yeah. It's good though. I think as weird as it is, I feel like having blue black fair being like a deck to, I don't even say a deck to beat, but a deck that keeps a lot of things in check
Hmm.
really does fix a lot of problems. I know that sounds really strange, but blue black fair is like this really weird deck that you can interact with on so many different levels, and it can interact with you in so many different levels that it just, I don't know, it just seems to obviously naturally fix itself. That as soon as you have Spell Stutter Sprite on the agenda, that's it, it's healing. Spell Stutter Sprite fixing formats. I bet I never thought those words would come out of my mouth, but here we are.
But
Mm,
yeah, yeah, it feels very good at the moment. It feels very balanced. There's a lot of
yeah.
variety. Um, there's less space for brews than I would like because obviously Pauper has always had a big space for brews, but
Mm.
it is good that we're seeing this much variety in a challenge top eight.
Yeah, I think though naturally it's just that I think the thing with the brew side of things is more the power level of cards now.
Mm.
It's very much. I think we've touched on it previously that obviously the power level is just so far away of what it used to be that you have to basically input some sort of already established engine into that deck for it to be considered.
Yeah, or the sort of engine of that brew has to function at such a high level
Yeah.
to compete with everything
Mm.
else that's so finely tuned with
Yeah.
powerful cards in. Yeah.
So, but it is what it is, and it's still good to see, and there still is some form of room of brewing, but they're not as out there as they definitely used to be.
Hmm.
You're not gonna. I don't think you're gonna find. Was it what was it called? Is it Petals, the enchantment deck that untaps its lands with the
Oh, the Market Festival deck.
Market Festival? That's the one.
Yeah.
Like you're not gonna have something like that just appear out of nowhere anymore.
Yeah.
So, but still in a good space.
Yeah. Have you got anything else to comment on the
No,
Saturday?
no. As I say, definitely sweet, definitely nice to see, and please take Rex and Walker out your glitters decks, please. Thank you.
I don't know. It might be the truth. I haven't tried it yet.
The truth.
It just seems very odd. Yeah. Anyway, moving on to the Sunday results. Sunday the 12th. First place we have FAMS. Second place Mono Blue Terror. Third and fourth was Boros Initiative and Blue Red Terror. And then fifth through eighth was Blue Black Fair, Blue Black Terror, Blue White Glitters, and Campfire Gardens. And then the two near misses were Colgate and another Blue White Glitters. So I guess it's a bit like second verse is the same as the first. 8 unique decks in the top 8 again. 2 of them non-blue decks. Yeah, just again super varied top 8 end of the challenge. 9 unique decks total in the top 10, with just that one repeating blue white glitters that was a blue black fin on the Saturday. Yeah, very very good to see.
Yeah, and also 8 unique decks both days, and also the not the same 8 unique decks as well. Obviously, you've got FAMs here where
Yeah.
you didn't have you have Grixis Affinity on Saturday that you don't have on Sunday. Like it's overall, there's a lot more than 8 unique decks. You're looking at what 12 is it? Something along them
9,
lines.
10. There's at least there's 12. Yeah, if you count obviously the 2 gardens variants are pretty distinct now.
Mm.
Um,
So
yeah, pretty great. Obviously, there's a lot tying them together. Like there's two variants of gardens. There's 3 variants of terror. Um, but even still, they are enough different that
yeah,
it
definitely.
does change up the format.
Oh, for sure. The way you tackle obviously the blue red terror to me is more like blue red monarch. It's more
Yeah.
like a monarch control deck that coincidentally has terror in it. They obviously play very very differently. All 3 different variations.
Hmm.
And it's definitely nice to see. And it just shows that terror is obviously a powerful card. Like don't get me wrong, and it showcases that all of the color variations are definitely very viable. For sure.
Yeah, it seems to have just tempered itself down a bit. I'm not sure sort of what has caused that. If the meta's just evolved to the state where like the blue white glitters deck can go over it and the Colgate deck can stop it or what, but it seems like it's went from being this all-encompassing, you have to play Terra, to it's a solid deck, but it's not gonna just run through the entire tournament. I'm not entirely sure what changed there, whether it's just a pickup of control has tempered the mono blue down, and then the blue black and the blue red are more control-y anyway.
Yeah, I don't know. It is interesting, to be fair, because I would probably say, I'd say mono blue is the more aggressive version, obviously with the untapped lands and the speed of it. And then, as you say, like the core gate, to me, I imagine the core gate and the fairies matchup kind of tries to keep it in check. But then I would also say then, this is how I imagine it in my head. I have obviously zero evidence to back any of this up. But I would then say the blue, red, and blue, black Terra are very much better at beating the core gate and the fair, because obviously, like, as we touched on last week, like, Angler can't be snuff outed against blue, black fair. You know, they're very monarch driven with blue, black fair. They usually have like 2 to 3 thorns in the deck, and then that's where the blue, red Terra comes in. Obviously, you can kind of fight over the monarch a bit better and keep up that way, maybe.
Yeah, I think just the more removal from the blue red one, especially as well. Obviously, the blue black one has more removal, but the blue red, especially with the screds and the bolts and the cannonades, is probably just better set up for Corgate and Fair than the other two. It's really cool.
I also do like the 2 ghost fires in the sideboard of the blue red Terra. That is peak awesome. I love it. But yeah, definitely a really sweet top 8 overall. Obviously, it's nice to see that Boros initiative making a comeback as well. Like, the snap bolt list is very strong, and showcasing that obviously there is definitely room to brew in a sense, but obviously you have to go within the lines of what's powerful. Like, obviously Wildfire is powerful, the Goliath Paladin, Prismatic Strands, all that sort of good stuff. And just
I think that's sort of something I would say is notably missing from the Saturday is Boros. Like, the full top 32, there's no Boros deck, whether it be initiative or just like your Boros Skyfisher style synth deck. It's just not there.
It's because everybody who listens to this listens to this podcast enters the challenge and realised I mentioned Boros was going to do well. So they went, I'm not running Boros, well, I'm going to run someone else.
But yeah. But yeah, obviously at least we get it on the Sunday as well. Which is, great to see.
It was definitely a great weekend overall. Showed that basically, instead of putting it lightly, is probably instead of the Pauper community sitting there going, we need this fixed, it's dire, you know, help us, the vaccine, like, it's naturally just healed itself over the last 3 to 4 weekends, and we've just got to this. Like, this is probably, looking at it, one of the better meta games. It's definitely powerful, and definitely one of the most powerful Pauper meta games I've ever played in, but it's definitely strong and diverse, and there's a lot of different options you can play, and it's great. It's fixed itself.
Yeah, I think ultimately the players have probably fixed it. There's definitely been a lot of people step up and tune decks to compete. Like, obviously the introduction of Blue Black Fair, like, what, 3 weeks ago now, maybe? Like, essentially resurrecting a dead deck that's become a mainstay pretty much already. Obviously Campfire Gardens is a pretty new one as well. Just like modifying decks that they can compete in this metagame, and then those decks sort of sticking and changing the rest of the metagame around it.
Definitely.
It's really good. Again, Grixis Affinity, just people not giving up and tuning the list, removing Galv Blast, putting cast downs in and stuff like that to get it to a place where it can compete and be a mainstay again. Is obviously key to how this metagame's like developed from where we were. I don't know how long ago now, a couple of months ago, where it was essentially just mono red and Terra.
Definitely. I guess we those pilots and obviously grinders and PFP members that obviously stuck out with these decks and give them some love is obviously great to see. And it just shows, it just takes that one person or a few people. Like, obviously Bako and Carves and things like that obviously worked on the blue black fair and come out with this on top, and you know, It's great to see that you can just resurrect, or as I say, resurrect or even evolve certain decks and just the mainstays. Like obviously Luffy with the affinity, just never giving up on it.
Yeah, yeah.
Great. It's great to show that obviously Pauper has so much love that it can do this. That the player base just fix itself. Realize. Yeah, it's good. Refreshing.
Yeah, and the Sunday challenge as well. There was a few more not mainstay decks in the top 32. So I've actually picked this deep dive deck. There was actually two. There was a mono green Stumpy I seen that had just made it into the top 32. I was like, oh, can I not pick? 29th place was mono green Stumpy. I've got a soft spot for that deck. I was like, oh, should I pick it? And I was like, well, there's not really that much new about it. It's sort of just
just
a
some
fairly stock Stumpy deck. So I was
just
like,
some
I'm gonna have to pick.
sadistic human decided to play
Yeah.
Stompy in a challenge. You poor sod with Bone
Hey,
Splitter as well.
yeah, one on Bone Split.
Oh gee.
But yeah, so I have picked for our deep dive the 18th place deck by Floizer, maybe, which I've called Black Green Fog.
Yeah.
Which I thought was a fairly apt name. It's sort of a. I looked at it initially. I thought, oh, it's gardens, and then I looked at the instance. There was no removal except one cast down, and I was like, oh, maybe this isn't gardens. So yeah, essentially it's a black green deck, leveraging a gate mana base, but with no basilisk gate. The gates are just for heap gate to produce a bunch of treasure tokens.
Wink on.
Yeah, it's got 4 candy trails and 4 lembas for sort of filtering life gain, bit of card draw, and then 9 creatures, 4 Thorn of the Black Rose, 4 Crypt Rats, and 1 Mirkwood Bats.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, I'm gonna have to pick this deck. And then a bunch of fogs essentially, with 4 fogs, 3 tangles, 4 moments peace, 2 darkness, a couple of teachings, which you get the blue off the treasures and the gates, and then weather the storms and a single cast down, and 2 duress. Nearly forgot the 2 duress.
You gotta mention the duresses. The rounded up.
But yeah, I wasn't sure what to think of this. I don't know what you think of it coming from a sort of gardens perspective.
I do like it, and I think it's great. I'm all for. I'm gonna fog you to death, and then I'm gonna make a bunch of tokens, and I'm gonna either kill you with Crypt Rats or a Mirkwood Bats. Like I like it. I'm here for it for sure. The first thing, as I said to you, the first thing that stands out to me is where the hell is your Deadly Disputes, please? Your game plan is I'm going to make treasure tokens from Heapgate. I have Lembas. Like, I understand Candy Trail doesn't work really well with it. I get it.
But I mean, it's fine. It's serviceable with a Deadly Dispute.
But, like, where is your Deadly Disputes? Like, that's the only thing that stands out to me is I could easily see cutting 3 to 4 cards off the belt really easy, man. 4 Deadly Disputes will probably improve this deck. But other than that, the deck seems pretty good. And I also do think it probably does want a Basilisk Gate. At least one. I think Crypt Rats and Basilisk Gate as a combo is just too good.
Yeah. I thought, to be fair, it was quite refreshing to see the gate sort of mana base, but leveraging a different gate.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Obviously, Ixalan has caves. I don't know if enough of them are common to have like a cave mana base be relevant, but yeah, just to see the sort of gate shell but leverage it in a different way was quite cool.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely
obviously, yeah, the lack of card draw seems like a big thing that it is missing. But yeah, fogging your opponent to death and then eventually getting a bunch of treasures and Crypt Rats in them once or twice for lethal seems pretty funny. Obviously, there's Lembas and Candy Trails to gain a bunch of life so you don't die of the same Crypt Rats.
Does I was going to say, does Mirkwood Bats gain your life? I didn't know if it was drain, but it's just lose 1 life. You have got, obviously, Weathers too, so... It's pretty
It
good.
is on create and sacrifice as well.
Mm.
But obviously you've only got one copy and no way to get it back.
No.
So I imagine it's a play it and then sack a bunch of tokens type thing rather than have it in play and then heap get a couple of times.
Yeah, it's definitely cool because obviously the blue green turbo fog deck that kind of obviously draws a bunch of cards, fogs your opponent, and then mills you with streamer thought. It's obviously to the similar kind of vein, but obviously using crypt rats and merkle bats and stuff like that to kill your opponent is definitely it's
Mm.
it's a nice way of I don't know, after playing campfire gardens as well, like that sort of hard control deck has really been so fun to play. Don't worry, it's very time consuming. I've won the game on like 2 seconds quite a few times. It's nice, but this is definitely a refreshing way to take Turbo Fog for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and then sideboard wise, there's a couple more cast downs and a couple drowning sorrows. 4 rebs, which obviously again you can get off the gate or the heap gate or the treasures. 3 avenging hunters, just in case you need to go the sort of more traditional black green game plan of take the initiative. And 4 Cerulean gatekeepers, which is obviously another bonus to using this sort of gate shell. The 4 mana 2/4 if you control 2 or more gates, you gain 7 life when it comes in. Pretty serviceable body, and 7 life's a pretty big number again. I guess the sort of downside of the gatekeepers in this deck is there's no basilisk gates, as you said, to make it a sort of a threat on its own.
Yeah. I'd say I could easily see squeezing 1, maybe 2 in there, and it just kind of eases you out, gives you a lot more easier outs. Like I'm not saying you need it, but it's just free enough that you like if you have a basilisk gate and a rot farm in a forest or whatever, you can easily just make my crypt rats huge, and then it now doesn't die to its own ability, and it means you now need
Yeah.
2 crypt rats instead of the 3 or 4 that you don't have card draw for.
Yeah, I think for me, just obviously initially looking at this, I could easily see cutting the 2 mystical teachings, the 2 duress, and like the singleton cast down to make room. Obviously you lose the teachings for cast down, but I don't know how often that's going to come up.
Who knows? But I do also like the Avenger Hunt in the sideboard too. It's pretty, especially with all the fogs. You can basically just play
Yeah.
it, hold up air fog, and you're laughing at that point. You're basically, I will protect this initiative unless you play your own initiative guy. So it's definitely pretty
I think
sweet.
it definitely gives you some additional speed as well, like you were saying about timing out. If you go pretty long game 1, you can just jam in some hunters and
Yeah,
it'll turbo your game 2 pretty fast.
yeah. Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, I thought that was a cool one. Too cool not to bring back the
Oh,
deep dive
definitely.
for.
That was definitely a cool deck to obviously highlight. Definitely sweet. Would you like to move on to shoutouts?
Yeah, go for it.
First of all, I guess we got to shout out Faloiza for definitely bringing that black green fog deck to our
Yeah.
attention because that was definitely a sweet one. But moving on to actual shout out obviously Bako for top 4 on the Sunday on
And Saturday
Saturday.
with
Shout
Terror.
with Mono Blue Terror. Shout out to GN for obviously the finals, I think winning on the Sunday. Shout out to Luffy again for the win on the Saturday as well with Grix Symphony. Pretty sweet.
I think I might have to rebuild Grixis Affinity again.
Dust
For next month's Pauper FNMs, it might have to come out.
it off. Dust off those Merlin
Yeah.
forces.
Yeah.
Would you like to move on to the hot takes?
Yeah.
Cool.
So our hot takes from last week.
Mhm.
My first one was that a non-blue deck would top 8 next week. Obviously, it was fairly free. We got called off two versions of Gardens and Boris Initiative. Obviously, good to see. I'm hopeful that it will sort of continue in this vein where there will be a couple of non-blue decks each top 8. Because with the power of the blue commons at the moment, it's very easy just to get none. So yeah, hopefully we'll continue in a similar.
Yeah,
pattern.
definitely. It'd be good to see. Obviously, as I say, just a lot more non-red decks, but we can hope. Mine is Boros Synth will top 4 one of the next challenges. Obviously, everyone knew about it and just decided to not register Synth, and that's the only reason. It's nothing to do with anything else. But we did have a Boros initiative, but unfortunately not the same deck.
You should have just said Boros and it would have been. You would have got it.
I don't like to have easy hot takes. I make it hard for myself.
I mean, Boros top 8 is hard enough, I would have said, but I'll leave it to you. My second one was the Hydra Blast, and yeah, blue Elemental Blast numbers in top 8 would trend downwards. Obviously, we've seen there's still mono red about, but it's very, very tempered down from what it was. And in my opinion, doesn't need 6 to 8 blasts in every sideboard to deal with it.
You're just biased.
Yeah, I am biased, to be fair. But yeah, we'd been averaging 5 to 6 per deck in the top 8, which is pretty huge. This week, it's changed, but probably not really changed. I think the average for Saturday was 4 per deck, and the average for Sunday was 3.75 per deck. But 2 decks each day were non-blue decks.
Yeah, I would say it's probably more.
It's sort of 5 or 6 per deck that are blue.
I was going to say it's probably more just the fact that there's more non-blue decks in the top 8 than actually it's trended downwards.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the numbers, like looking through the decks, that they are all sort of on 5, 6, 7 still.
Yeah, definitely.
Which, especially when you look at these top 8s, just doesn't make sense. Like this Sunday, there's a Boros deck, and I guess the blue-red Terror, if you want to board blasting against that.
Yeah.
And then the Saturday, there was the one called over. There was like a Jeskai Wildfire, which I don't think I'd be boarding Hydroblasting against unless you're playing something that's like really leaning on red cards not resolving. And
nobody wants the Wildfire to resolve.
Yeah. And the Grixis Affinity again, which is sort of not really that Grixis anymore, that the Galv Blasts and that have gone. It's basically like Crackland Shamans. So if you're really scared of 3 Crackland Shamans, you can board in your seven blasts. And the 2 munitions, to be fair, yeah.
But yeah, I do agree.
The Fae does need an answer for munitions.
Can't leave home without them. My last one was Blue Black Terror will be the top Terror deck. That is clearly not the case. I would more say it's more the case in the sense that mono blues seem to trend it a little down in the sense that there's more variety. Obviously, we've had blue red, blue black, and mono blue, and that kind of Terror is kind of open field a bit, but it's definitely not obviously blue black is the winning deck.
Yeah. I think mono blue is still the best Terror deck at the moment, but I think blue black's gone from being just a non-choice to it's a legitimate choice. You could play this one instead and it'll do good. The same with blue red. Like blue red initially come out as like, oh, this is a cool new version of the deck. When mono blue sort of got established, blue red just completely died. And now obviously we're seeing it crop up here and there again as a legitimate choice if you want to play Terror. So yeah, I still think they're both worse than mono blue, but they are now choices.
Yeah, they definitely have. There's a lot of pros and cons to each variation, and it's obviously depending on your metagame can obviously dictate what you end up playing. Like looking at it, I'd probably say the fact that mono blue has no real hard removal for like Corgate and blue black Fae can definitely imagine making it a difficult matchup sometimes. But yeah, would you like to move on to hot takes for next week?
Yes. My first one is a bit of a throw the dart and hope, but I have a good feeling about this one.
You might hit the board.
We will get an update from the PFP after Ixalan, but before the next set. I think seeing this sort of variety in the metagame, and as well as coming off a sort of a big decision by them not to ban anything, and they obviously got a lot of feedback from that. Like, we want more, not transparency, but communication. I have a good feeling that they'll listen and they'll give you an update, see what they think.
I think so too. I definitely agree with that, and I do think even if it is a more, they're not going to change anything, which is obviously fine. communicating that fact or communicating their thoughts to everyone is definitely a good thing, and definitely are hopefully taking that feedback into consideration.
Yeah, and yeah, just to compound that, I don't want it to be a ban update, or I don't think it needs to be a ban update, but just a health of the format update.
Yeah, how they see the format, definitely.
Yeah.
Or like, even if they say, oh, these cards have impacted the format from Ixalan, that sort of stuff. Just what their thoughts are on the format. We like it. Just more, this is what we think, not what do you think is probably where I'd go. But yeah. Other than that, definitely a good one. Mine is Crypt Rat decks will make an upward tick with the recent success of Kirby on Breathless Gates and the Gardens this weekend. I think Crypt Rat is really in a great place at the moment. It's very good. It's similar to Crackling Charm, but I'd say obviously it's good at killing basically everything. It obviously can kill the small things, it can kill the terrors, it can kill the spell stutter sprites, it can kill the ninjas. It is very versatile at what it can hit. And I think it's a very good card at the moment. So I think these sort of decks will probably start seeing a bit more uptick.
I think it's a weird one as well, because sort of Gardens got hit pretty hard and was on a massive downward spiral. And then everyone sort of looked at it and went, oh, wait, Crypt Rats is really good. We should play more of this card. And then they put more in, and now Gardens is good again. It's just like, oh.
I really hate it because I really don't like Crypt Rats, because it's one of those, it's good because, well, the card's just obviously stupidly good.
Yeah.
And it really pays. I think I'm just like a hipster. Any card that's like non-mainstream good, I just instantly dislike it. It's like, why are you good? I don't want to play you. Like Andy with the Toy Story. I don't play with you anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, my next one was that we'll see a rise in non-blue deck top 8s next week. Again, pretty hopeful. Just to have a bit more variety. I'll take more than 2, 3. I would take 3 in a top 8.
Well, I think it kind of leans into my 2 hot takes as well. That hope that maybe is the way, but we'll see.
Yeah.
My last one is that Initiative will sort of like make a return this weekend. I did put in the top 16, but I'm not really too fussed about that. But I think with the rise of obviously Boros Initiative and other things, like I think Initiative's in actually a reasonable position against these control decks. So you might see like a bigger resurgence of like Black White Ephemerate, Gardens, even potentially Ponza to an extent.
You should have said that last week.
Yeah, probably.
And you would have got it for this week.
Yeah. I like to be either a week behind or a week ahead. I don't like to be on point.
I think the Initiative's an interesting one as well, because it can also be like a tool for the control decks in the control deck mirror.
Yeah.
Like you could see the Corgates, for example, boarding into Paladins against not a Corgate mirror, but against another control deck mirror. Or maybe against like Campfire Gardens, if you just slam a Paladin. I'll remove it, but now you've got the Initiative in play and I don't play Avenging Hunters anymore.
Yeah, definitely.
It could be pretty strong.
Yeah, for sure. I've seen it in like sideboards of like Wildfire as well, like Jeskai Wildfire. Live Paladins,
it seems strong in there as well, actually, especially with the Ephemerate engine.
So yeah, hopefully we can see more Initiative as a way to fight. Well, I don't say hope, but
yeah,
it's a miserable mechanic to play, but I do think it's well positioned. So
yeah,
if I had my way, Spell Stutter Sprite would be banned. So obviously that's nothing to gauge off, but I hate that card. But anyways, that is the hot takes for next week. Anything else to add before we round things up?
It's been obviously 2 really good challenges there. It's great to see the variety, and hopefully it continues next week as well.
Yeah. 2 really great weekends as well. Like last weekend was obviously pretty good, and then this weekend's just even excelled. Yeah. So we're just constantly.
If anyone's looking to get into Pauper, if you pick any of the decks that top 8'd either of these challenges, other than FAMs, I would say, you're probably in a pretty good position.
Yeah, FAMs is a great deck, but don't pick it up for your first deck.
No.
There's a lot of rules and interactions that would definitely, that half of them still confuse me, to be fair. So I've been playing for quite a while. But yeah, thank you all for listening. Obviously, if you have enjoyed this podcast, please do not forget to share it with your friends, your local Pauper community, your just local game store in general. Print out the episode and put it on a pinboard or something. I don't know. Make a QR code and give us free advertising or something. I have no idea. Tell your pediatrician. I honestly don't mind. Please keep sharing it. Please. Honestly, it's really great to see that obviously a lot of people do like tuning in and are enjoying this podcast. It's hard putting up with Reese sometimes, but we do it for the love of obviously the pod. I jest. But yeah, it's really great and keep it up. And thank you all for the love and support. And that is all from us at Casting Comments. Until next time, and don't forget to stay hydrated.
Goodbye.